blue skies and nothing's on fire in South Korea. A country I've often complained about when it comes to air quality.
True.
But this week, Seoul is nowhere near the number one spot of most polluted air. No, this week it's somewhere in America because America's burning. The sun got a little too close this time to God's chosen country. Is Donald Trump Jesus?
It's funny because I thought Obama was the Antichrist.
Let's Google that. Is Donald Trump
I bet you're going to get some weird QAnon
Jesus?
shit.
Why am I talking about this? I do not endorse politics and religion at all.
Period. End of sentence. I'm trying to find how fast the fires are burning. I can't seem to find it.
Luckily, the fires have always been burning since the wheel's been turning. I didn't start the fire.
Go on, Weird Al.
I wrote that song.
The original, not the parody.
I didn't even realize Weird Al had a parody, but I'm not surprised to find out.
Oh, I don't know if he does either. I'm just saying you're a parody.
You know you've made it when Weird Al makes a parody of you.
That's kind of true.
I think in Weird Al's later career that he'll move away from music and start doing parodies of podcasts. No matter the length, just a 3-hour parody of Weird Al doing a Heat Death of the Universe. We'll get one first.
Yeah, definitely. Just imagining how impossible and boring it would be for him to try that.
I think it could be a cool creative project.
You mean like set to music, or like he's just going to sit down and pretend he's doing a podcast?
He's just going to sit down and make a podcast parodying an episode of a podcast.
And he'll do like all the host voices.
Yeah, he'll just choose a heavily downloaded podcast.
Like ours.
And make his own script, but use the same inflections as the original one. This sounds great. Weird Al, if you're listening, you can say thank you to me in an email. I wanted to join the mafia.
Ever since you were a little kid?
No, just ever since
when you were carrying your shine box around?
Ever since I realized the only way that I'm ever going to get rich quick is hard crime.
Welcome to the tinfoil hat hour. We've got a mafia truther as not our guest, but as the main co-host of the show today.
I don't believe in bad people. Only bad situations. I have this new form of comedy where I emphasize a word I just said and then just kind of wait for people to laugh.
It's working on me.
Excellent. My plans are coming to fruition. First you and then the world. I'll just support whoever I feel like is the most middling for the rest of my life.
That sounds very nihilistic. It's kind of bumming me out.
Thank you. That's what I'm here for.
So is all this other news. Oh, Jesus, okay, stop you.
If I could be anything and I could excel at anything, I would excel at being a psychic vampire. I'll just drain the energy out of everyone and everything.
These are the early morning musings of Heat Death Pod.
I wake up every morning and think, how can I bore you to death?
Me specifically?
Don't you have morning affirmations?
I don't know. I don't think so. It's usually just a vague sense of dread. I don't know.
As content creators, I feel it's our responsibility to promote dread.
He walked out in the gray light and stood, and he saw for a brief moment the absolute truth of the world. The cold, relentless circling of the intestate earth. Darkness implacable. The blind dogs of the sun in their running. The crushing black vacuum of the universe. And somewhere 200 animals trembling like ground foxes in their cover. Borrowed time and borrowed world and borrowed eyes with which to sorrow it.
And lo, for the earth was empty of form, and void, and darkness was all over the face of the deep, and we said, look at that fucker dance.
Welcome to Heat Death of the Universe, coming at you from Seoul, South Korea. Hard time stamp, September 16th, 2020. It's a Wednesday and 11:41 in the AM. Yeah, it's an early one, folks.
We've been wanting to start for at least 2 hours now. Just think about that. Lots of preparation.
Yeah. Like just trying to get the sleep out of my eyes. And
We are the earliest waking podcast in the business.
I don't think many people record in the mornings. That's just my hunch. At least not the ones who like don't have day jobs. I don't know. But anyway, what are we talking about today, Jason? How could we summarize this episode based on these two articles we got picked out?
We're going to talk about the environment a bit and promises.
Environment and promises.
The environment and promises.
It might toss in a little military-industrial complex chatter as well. But no, we picked out two articles by a writer that I've liked for a while now, named Luke Savage.
He's savage.
He nice one.
I'm sure he's heard that in his life before.
I think I first actually heard him on various podcasts, like as a guest, and then checked out his writing, and he's like a Jacobin regular. I think that's his main gig. Anyway, the first one, I guess we should just hop right into it, right?
Sure.
Is called It's Eco-Socialism or Barbarism. It's a binary choice here, folks.
So barbarism, that's about hair cutting, right?
Jesus Christ. Yeah, of course.
Just clarifying things for the listener.
Of course it is. No, I think what he's saying is there will be like total chaos if certain climate trends aren't dealt with, and very soon.
I've heard this for the past 20 years.
And it hasn't happened yet, so it's bullshit, right?
Things are going to get better.
Yeah, the trend is going up and up. All right, here we go. Blood red skies. Entire towns torched. The West Coast wildfires are the latest proof that we have no alternative to a Green New Deal, and that the urgency in the face of increasingly apocalyptic conditions is mounting rapidly. Okay, so obviously we're the catalyst for this particular article is the recent wildfires out west in the United States that are, I think, kind of record-breaking at this point from what I understand. And, yeah, they've caused the sky to be blood red, and it's a very weird thing to see. It's very surreal. But here's the article in earnest. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say the pictures and videos I've seen are, they're surreal. Surreal's a great word for it. A bit ominous.
Yeah, and people have been having fun, like with memifying it and whatnot as well, like superimposing like the new Blade Runner movie over it and things like that. Because it does actually look like that scene in that movie.
It does.
Where he goes into like the horrible dust storm area. But anyway, let's hop into what Mr. Luke Savage has to say. Earlier this week, residents of San Francisco's Bay Area awoke to a sky that looked demonic thanks to smoke sitting high in the atmosphere and blocking out the sun. It's just one of many ominous images yielded by the wildfires currently raging on North America's west coast, a disaster which, at time of writing, had already burned through an astonishing 2.3 million acres, forced school closures and prison evacuations, and left nearly 200,000 without power.
Speaking of prison evacuations, I did see that California just passed some new legislation that I actually think's good, but also sad. I guess the prisoners who also work as firefighters, because some prisoners work as volunteer firefighters, can now get their sentences reduced for helping fight these fires. And I know that, like, one of my best friends in the States, Ted, is a firefighter, and I know from talking to him that firefighters get paid a lot of money if they're willing to fight wildfires, and I doubt these prisoners are making any money. They're just getting promised reduced sentences, which I don't even think is like completely confirmed. It probably just goes on the record as like, okay, these are some more marks for good behavior.
Yeah, maybe it helps them like with the parole board or something, but I guess that's mildly positive news. I mean, the downside, of course, is that they're probably, if they're getting paid, it's probably pennies on the dollar to do very, very dangerous work. Let's see. With fires raging far inland and across multiple states, the worst may still lie ahead, shattering all precedent in what has already been a record-breaking season of high temperatures and dry weather conditions. Last month, the temperature in Death Valley hit 129.9 degrees Fahrenheit.
Jesus.
That's
hot.
54.4 degrees Celsius, which is quite possibly the highest temperature ever recorded, period. Yeah, that sounds dangerous to me.
Well, they've obviously never been to the sun.
That's where you like. That's where you like to summer. You have a cabin up there.
Of course.
The fires are almost more unsettling when viewed from space. There's a link to that in the article, by the way, which I checked out. It was pretty
unsettling.
Yeah, he was right. It's unsettling and to see these things from space. A point of view that underscores their breathtaking scale and the potential for similar events to spread even more wildly in the near future. So, I mean, so far he's setting up, just this, very important news story of the moment. But we're going to get into some more like kind of broad view stuff here in a second. Seasonal blazes in California are, of course, not a new phenomenon, but an increasingly warming climate creates the conditions for weather events, like the lightning strikes, which initially set off most of the current wildfires. See, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize climate change would actually create more lightning.
Yeah.
I did not know that. To have more extreme implications than they otherwise would. It's surely no coincidence that all 10 of the state's harshest fire seasons have occurred since 2003, a historical record which puts climate change very much at the center of the crisis. A 2018 study published by none other than the environmentally nihilistic Trump administration projected that these trends will continue for decades, with California's fire season incrementally growing in length. So if an environmental nihilist like Trump and his administration are being candid enough in their study, and they're probably, skewing the data to sound better than it is.
I don't know if they are. California generally votes against people like Trump. They might be looking at it and be like, okay, how much longer until we don't have to deal with this blue state? Gleefully rubbing their hands together.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly not even that far off from reality, but what their boss wants is better numbers than reality because he thinks it's a hoax,
Yeah, I mean, he thinks it's a hoax, and if you wait it out, everything will be fine. If you don't test for fires, there are no fires.
Yeah. Good point. The bleak and sometimes dystopian images of blood-red skies and buildings set ablaze have triggered an understandable deluge of alarmed reactions from prominent liberal politicians. Such rhetoric, however, should not be confused with concern actually proportionate to the scale of the problem. Now, here's where it gets kind of the kernel of what I think we want to talk about. So California's Governor Gavin Newsom, for example, big time lib, right, has announced he has, quote, no time for climate change deniers, despite approving some 48 new fracking permits since April. Fracking having been strongly linked to an increase in global emissions. Nancy Pelosi, having derisively dismissed the Green New Deal, this part kills me. She once referred to the Green New Deal as the Green Dream, or whatever they call it, blames climate change for both her home state's raging wildfires and last month's hurricane on the Gulf Coast.
Yay.
So the trend here is, speaking out of both sides of your mouth, right, at the same time.
Disapprove, 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 and take that money from oil corporation A, B, or C.
Yeah.
As Biden said not too long ago, I'm not banning fracking. I am not banning fracking.
Yep.
And don't worry, he's not. If you look at his record, he has supported it a lot and often.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, he loudly repeated, in the clearest. That's probably the most, lucid he's been in the last, 2 years.
Hey, nothing increases your ability to be lucid like a fat paycheck.
Well, that and, some good amphetamines or whatever they inject him with to counteract his dementia. But
Adderall's a hell of a drug.
Barack Obama, in characteristically elliptical fashion, took to Twitter to declare, "The fires across the West Coast are just the latest examples of the very real ways our changing climate is changing our communities. Protecting our planet is on the ballot. Vote like your life depends on it, because it does." Now, contrast that with this information. During Obama's 2 terms at the head of the most powerful office in the world, U.S. gas production increased some 35%, while production of crude oil grew by an astonishing 80%, a fact that the former president has actually taken to boasting about.
I mean, these increases were due to fracking, right? Because it was like the new boom of American oil production.
It definitely like boosts like the rate in which you can extract oil, right? These examples, like many others like them, underscore the need for a new understanding of climate change denial that goes beyond mere acknowledgement of scientific reality. See, I think that's an important sentence there. Like, we applaud these people just for saying, I believe in climate change. It exists.
You don't have to recycle as long as you agree that recycling is probably good for the earth.
Yeah. And like,
not that recycling fixes a lot, but that's a whole nother topic. A lot of things that get recycled just end up in the ocean anyways.
Yeah, and yeah, that is a whole other topic. But your analogy is apt, though. The fact is, while more U.S. politicians than ever now pay lip service to the basic conclusions of environmental science, the leaders of both parties continue to preside over a consensus of complacency, determined to dismiss transformative prescriptions like the Green New Deal as utopian or too expensive. That pisses me off.
Oh,
Such descriptions are now even more fatuous and self-imposed than usual. When challenged about the supposed unrealism of his climate policies, Bernie Sanders very much had the right idea in declaring them necessary, regardless of their ambition or cost. California's wildfire season is already the worst on record, yielding images that look straight out of dystopian fiction. And given the trend, there's every reason to think next year's will be even harsher. What the hell are we waiting for?
What are we waiting for?
I mean, this might be kind of like a juvenile stance, but I don't know. I think it makes sense. The corporate executives of these gigantic gas and oil companies and various big polluters who are also basically buying off our politicians legally, by the way, legal bribery. Look at how old they are. They know they're going to be fucking dead before any of this shit really starts to affect them. So they don't care. They don't care about, I don't know, I guess their children and grandchildren.
Oh, I mean, as long as they are raking in the money, why should they care?
Oh, and maybe that's also the rationale is
their children and grandchildren are going to have access to the best bunkers.
Yeah,
while the climate's falling apart.
Yeah, they'll get to go into those luxury bunkers in New Zealand or whatever. Yeah, that could also be right. Maybe I shouldn't sell them short. Maybe they do care about their families, and that's exactly why they're hoarding as much money as possible, so their families can survive the coming climate apocalypse.
I mean, one of the reasons when I've debated with friends about my position on Joe Biden or Trump, neither of which I like all that much, if at all, and they say, you've got to vote for Biden. I mean, if nothing else, voting for Biden's better for the environment. But to me, I'm not so sure it is. Their records are both very bad when it comes to the environment.
Yeah, and we before the pod started, we were kind of looking a little closer at some of their individual ratings from different environmentalist groups, and We have been maybe a bit unfairly saying that Trump and Biden's records are more similar than they are. They're both bad, but Trump's is definitely worse across the board, right?
No, they're very bad. Like, if you look at Biden's record, he failed to support stricter vehicle emission standards in 1990, then again in 1999, then again in 2003, and yet again in 2005. He also voted against legislation in 2002 that would have strengthened renewable energy initiatives. During the Obama days,
and he even voted against things like saving the spotted owl and like those kind of little like bits of legislation, right? Something like that.
Yeah, sure. He hates endangered species. He's basically voted against anything that would help with endangered species. In the Obama days, the administration promoted oil and gas extraction and embraced fracking, which obviously Biden embraces fracking. He has made that crystal clear. Biden does not support the Green New Deal and appears to support only some aspects of just transition away from fossil fuels, even though everyone with half a brain knows we should be transitioning fully away from fossil fuels, especially as renewable energy is starting to be cheaper than using fossil fuels. Biden refuses to declare that the climate crisis is a national emergency. And
I think
his plan wants to like end fossil fuels on public lands. That's one of the good things of his plan, but it's silent on phasing out production from existing leases. And as I've said a couple of times now, he refuses to ban fracking or end fossil fuel exports, which is nuts. And he also has no intention of trying to reach a net zero emission target by 2050. But his one or two things that he is doing makes him slightly better than Trump, who denies climate change is even real. I guess Biden at least admits that it's real, even though his actions show that he doesn't generally care all that much.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, this is a little aside, but did you see like 2 or 3 days ago that they got the private recordings of a lot of oil exec lobbyists who work in Washington basically saying climate change is even a bigger problem than most people think? But this is all like recorded. You can look it up on the New York Times. But the lobbyists are like, yeah, climate's really bad, but got to keep raking in the money. So they keep like pushing for things that are bad for the environment, even though they all know how terrible it is. And at this point,
they would know better than others.
Yeah, they're right in the industry.
It's their business. I'm sorry I cut you off there.
So anyway,
I think
Bernie was probably on the right track by saying this has to be declared a national emergency. It's probably the biggest disaster we're facing in the future, and it's like a train wreck in slow motion. It's something that I haven't been able to look away from since, the past 20 years of my life. I've complained about the environment with friends. Like, it just gets worse and worse and worse, and
yeah, I mean, the climate science
is scarier
is fairly straightforward as well. Like, it's not like it's this like controversial like wing of scientific research. Like, there's a huge consensus, and yeah, I mean, it's been proven that we can like predict a lot of these trends. And I think I just wanted to say that, like, out of all the stuff you read about Biden, like, it's all individually bad, but the total, like, unequivocal denial of the Green New Deal plan, which is, I don't know, the only good possible plan on offer. And the thing about that is, I'm even cynical that would even actually really help. But if anything's really going to help, it's going to be that.
It's the best option.
And like they won't even, like, like I've been saying a lot, like they won't even lie to us and say they're going to do it, and then
They
just
won't
not
consider
do
it. It's the same reason they won't consider Medicare for all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different lobbyists, but it's lobbyists. It's the fact that there are major corporations tied up in it, like the oil lobbyists I was talking about. So the thing with the oil companies right now is they tout natural gas as being very clean, but the way they get natural gas is through this process called flaring, which is actually really bad for the environment because it causes a lot of emissions. But most of the money from these oil companies actually just come from crude oil. But I guess the image they're selling is that natural gas is clean, and they try to make their image all based around that. But it's all bad, and there's other options, and we need to be moving away from it, but we're not moving away from it.
Yeah.
And everyone knows it's bad, but as long as there's money flowing, they're not going to stop. They have to, like, because of capitalism, they have to extract every ounce of value out of it. And once they've extracted all the value and wrung that towel as dry as possible, that's when they'll move on to figuring out how to make a profit by fixing the barren earth that they've left behind.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, what is it? I mean, just imagining like a sort of like a water world scenario where, like, I don't know, how would you like monetize that? Just sell, just like
selling water.
Selling water. Or what I was thinking even weirder, like they have like piss farms where people are just like pissing into the water world, like piss converter that like changes
that
your piss,
pulls the nutrients
to water.
out of the piss to make your food slush, and pulls the water out of the piss to make your drinking supply.
I don't think there's nutrients in urine.
There's nutrients in everything.
All right.
That's probably not true. Don't listen to me. I'm not a scientist. I'm a simple podcaster
You gotta be kidding me.
with opinions. Can't claim they're always right, but, you know, what can you do?
So, I don't know. I mean, there's, of course, a lot more that can be said about this crisis, but I think we kind of said our piece.
I mean, I feel like I'm harping on this a lot, but we've brought this up before. Unless your candidates are willing to take positions that you want to be enacted, you don't have to vote for a lesser of evil. There are other options. Like, I'm still big on just vote for the Green Party. Just do it. At least they have like good goals in mind.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I have a lot I could say about that as usual. That does kind of segue well though into the next article we've got here. Also written by the same author, Luke Savage. He wrote this, I think, just a few days after the last one. It's called Joe Biden's Promises Were Meant to Be Broken. Contrary to the rosy predictions of liberal pundits, Joe Biden has not embraced the left or its priorities. The only viable left strategy under a Biden administration will be one of confrontation.
What kind of confrontation? You mean we have to somehow leverage what little power we have to get him to do anything that we might possibly want?
I mean, that's the uphill battle of the whole thing for sure, is that, and this ties back into the reason why you and I are not, screaming vote blue no matter who, because where does this cycle end? Because, okay, let's imagine, we get Biden in there. He's said from the beginning that he only plans to be a one-term president because he will be the oldest president in U.S. history if he's elected. And his brain is Swiss cheese, but already. But the thing is usually when a politician gets in their first term, they've got that second term they can get right, and you can maybe use that as leverage. Like, we're not going to vote you in again unless you give us what we want, but we don't even have that option with Biden. Okay, and then so let's say one of my hunches comes true as well, which is that Biden doesn't even make it through the 4 years, and Kamala Harris takes over. How are we going to leverage her? Because she'll definitely be running for a second term then. And so even if they are running for a second term, right, who's going to be the opponent? You think it's going to be some nice guy Republican? No, it's probably going to be a guy 10 times worse than Trump as a reaction.
That doesn't mean he won't be nice.
Okay.
Perhaps he'll be silver-tongued.
My point is there's always going to be a new right-wing ghoul that we have to vote against, and vote against by voting for the lesser evil. That cycle is never going to end, and why should we expect it to? Because it works every time. What it accomplishes, even if the Democrat doesn't get elected, is that it keeps the left out of any positions of like federal power. Basically, it makes sure the status quo continues, and that the supposed left party, the Democratic Party, they're just I would even say they're center right. They're not even center left.
Compared to everywhere else in the world, they are definitely right.
Yeah.
Of center.
And then we have like full blown Nazis on, in the GOP. So like, you got to break this cycle is my point. It's like a cycle of abuse. It really is. It's like the abusive boyfriend or husband who's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, baby. It won't happen again." And we keep falling for it. I promise
next time it'll be better. Just give me one more chance. Give me one more chance, and I'll do all those things I promised. I'll bring you flowers. I'll be the perfect boyfriend. I'll make sure no one goes hungry. I'll make sure you're healthy.
But what's even worse than that now, though, is that as we're seeing right now in the Biden campaign, they're touting the endorsements of right-wing freaks.
I know. I mean,
they're not
nothing
even
like voting for a guy that has the endorsement of Rick fucking Snyder.
Yeah, and a bunch of people equally as terrible, if not worse. And what did I want to say?
Michael Bloomberg.
Bloomberg, yeah. I mean, so many of these people, but what I'm saying is, yeah, they don't even have the courtesy to lie to us about the things we want, because they know they don't need the left. This is why they're reaching so hard across the aisle, is because they think, okay, as long as we have the resistance people who are going to vote blue no matter who, and then we get some suburban like conservatives who hate Trump, we can win this thing. Instead of going, okay, we've got the vote blue no matter who people, and then let's reach out to the left.
We could win pretty easily if we just, said, maybe we should do good things for the public.
And the worst part is the things that the left wants, Medicare for all, Green New Deal, and so on.
Those all things that are relevant right now?
But they're worse than that. They're extremely popular. Within the Democratic Party, it's like 87% want Medicare for all.
Well, I think a lot of people somehow have been hoodwinked into believing that Biden is for those things.
Yeah, I don't know how they're not paying attention,
Well, they've been sold on the myth of Bernie Bros, that we're all bad people trying to just burn down America because we will not accept compromise.
Yeah, well, oh God.
I mean, all it would take to get my vote literally is for Biden to just have a press conference and say, hey, I support Medicare for all, and it's going to be a top priority.
I would
be skeptical.
I would assume it's a lie and that it's not going to be a top priority and they're not really going to push for it.
But that would be something.
It would be better than nothing, right? Like right
better
now,
than saying, "Shut up, stupid kids."
No, right now it's worse than nothing, because he said the opposite of that. He said, "I will veto
I
any
mean,
Medicare for all bill that comes
it
across
would
my desk.
disrespect the memory of his son.
Oh, God, I found that article after you told me about that. It fucking blew my mind. I linked to it in whatever episode that was, but it's real, folks. Like, I thought Jason was like trolling me or maybe misremembered something.
Which happens.
No,
I often misremember things.
No, come on, don't be so hard on yourself. Yeah, I mean, I also I really made up some shit about Tesla in the last episode. He was not anorexic, by the way. He just had a kind of peculiar diet. But
Peculiar diets is just a nice way of saying anorexic. to be
no,
honest
he
with you.
ate 2 meals a day, and he liked potatoes a lot because they were the most. Anyway, this is a real side tangent. Let's get into
This is
article.
for the only fans of the site.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah, what site?
the podcast.
The podcast site.
And we do not have an OnlyFans yet, but we're considering it.
Yeah. Well, more on that later, I guess. So let's get into this. I ended with the word confrontation. Yes. So the thesis is that the only way to possibly move Biden towards the left after election is, an aggressive kind of confrontation with the basically right-wing Democrats, which seem to make up a lot of
Who
the
do
party.
we have in Congress that would be
Confrontational?
confrontational? Omar, maybe.
The Squad, I guess, but even they seem...
AOC is kind of lackluster these days. No,
Yeah.
I mean, there's things I still like about her, but
Well,
I'm losing more and more.
They all
faith.
sit. They at least give lip service of Medicare for all, Green New Deal, raising the minimum wage, but I'm not aware of any real push for those things so far. I could be wrong, but I don't think, in terms of legislation, writing up legislation, I don't think they've done much on that.
I don't either.
I could be wrong. I don't think I am. But let's get into this article a bit. God, a series of odd news cycles followed the end of the Democratic primaries, running right up until this month's DNC. The most conservative politician, at least among the field's viable candidates, had won the race. In doing so, had directly repudiated an effort to realign the party and compel it to embrace a transformative policy agenda. For reasons that remain difficult to discern, many liberal pundits and commentators seem to react otherwise. Oh, this shit blew my mind the first time I heard this kind of stuff. Effusively speculating that Joe Biden, having spent more than 4 decades triangulating to the right, might actually be the progressive tribune America's liberals have been waiting for.
This is nuts to me. He's like one of the premier right-wing Democrats.
You know the talking point is about his platform is it is the most progressive platform of all time.
Oh, I know.
They keep saying that.
I know.
Why? How can they say that with a straight face?
I have no clue. In fact, I have no clue which Democrat had the most progressive platform of all time. It's probably not Joe Biden.
I mean, okay, if we're counting people that were actually nominated by the party, it's still probably not even true. But if we're comparing people who just have run, within the primaries, obviously Bernie Sanders is.
Oh yeah, if we're talking primaries, that's completely out of the window.
But
Sanders, Kucinich, or even for more mainstream, if you're talking about progressive ideals, at least for the environment, Gore was better than Biden by a long shot. I mean, not great on some other stuff, but the guy cared about the environment.
Yeah. But yeah, I know they're not talking about the primaries, but it's still, it just sounds so absurd. And even, okay, say it's true. That's sad then. That means the bar is really low. Okay? And I think you asked, why do these people, like 87% of Democrats, like registered like party member Democrats, are for things like Medicare for all. And you said, well, they just have this idea in their head that Biden is too. And it probably comes from bullshit articles and tweets and headlines that say most progressive platform in history, and then they don't look into the details. You know, they just take it at face value.
Sure.
But Biden was no Bernie Sanders. But his proposals, or so the theory went, eclipsed anything that had appeared on a Democratic presidential platform before in the scope of their ambition. And besides, the recommendations that had emerged from a joint Biden-Sanders quote-unquote unity task force, co-chaired by none other than New York's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, clearly showed the former to be a canny pragmatist willing to cede some ideological ground to the party's progressive wing. That was a load of bullshit, turns out, which everybody in their right mind called right away.
I'm not banning fracking. I'm against Medicare for all.
That's why I just like Bernie so...
I'm exactly like Trump. I want to increase military spending.
And like, I hate, I mean, I kind of like the reappropriation of the word cuck. So I'm going to say Bernie Sanders is being cucked on like the national level.
I'm sure he knows.
He knows, but it just makes me sad. Like,
I mean,
we talked about when we watched the DNC, how they were just like shitting all over him, even though he's doing everything he can. Even after they fucked him, he's still doing everything he can to help Biden.
He's still going to be the punching bag when they lose, because they're putting themselves on the trajectory of losing.
Yeah, they're trying to lose, it seems like.
When they lose, they have a punching bag. They have a, hey, this is all your fucking fault, Bernie. This was all because you stepped out of line and decided to run, be president, give proposals that people actually want, and get hopes up. Had you never broke the status quo, had you never tried to start some populist movement within our party, no one would have been any the wiser.
Yeah.
Why'd you have to give those damn leftists a voice?
I remember did you see the video of when Bernie officially endorsed Biden?
I did.
And they were like together on a Zoom call, and Biden was like spacing out and sundowning, and Bernie was just saying all this nice stuff. That was a thumbs up. We can edit stuff. You can come out.
Oh, she was.
Oh. Okay, that's an edit point.
Who can come out?
Shut up. I'm trying to remember what I was saying.
Biden was spacing out, and Bernie
the Bernie endorsement. Yeah, like it just made me so sick to my stomach. And Bernie was trying to like ease his supporters' minds by saying like, I'm going to have a task force. You know, it basically trying to say like, I will help to push Biden to the left. I will do everything I can. And he has not moved one millimeter. Yeah, like, and they're almost just like laughing at him now. Like did you really think we were gonna listen to you? Do you think this task force was really anything other than like a fucking empty gesture? Like, of course it was. And I'm sure he's a smart guy, Bernie. I'm sure he knew it all ultimately was too, but he's got principles, so he's trying his best, you know. At least that's the way I see it.
And I get it. I mean, Trump's scary. Trump definitely has the markings of someone who wants to set himself up as a fascist dictator, which I'm against. I mean,
of course.
I don't really like Biden, but I mean, as I've said before, he is better than Trump. Which is like the lowest possible bar.
Yeah. And it's by a hair.
Yeah, it's like it's not like he's this great leap or like something to be hopeful about. It's just like, well, this is slightly better than school food. School food? School food is pretty terrible.
Yeah. I mean, the worrying thing about, I mean, there's no good scenario here really, but like what people have, some people I guess on our side of things are predicting that, you know, Biden wins and then it's going to embolden the right to come back 10 times harder in 2024 with, like, say, a Tom Cotton or whatever, an actual competent, person who wants a white ethno state or some, like, Trump is just like a non-ideological person, really. He doesn't believe in anything. He's a nihilist. Just like that other article about him being like a nihilist.
Take that back. Trump believes in the Big Mac.
All right. He does worship at the altar of McDonald's. Okay, he has some beliefs. But
Which is one of the few things me and him agree about.
All right. But he, like, look at his, like, political past. He's always just kind of, like, gone with the times, gone with whatever will give him exposure and attention. So he used to be just like a typical, like, middle of the road Democrat for most of his life, I'm pretty sure. And then suddenly he becomes this, like, symbol of the far right. And he doesn't give a shit. If he became a symbol of the far left, he'd love that too. I think, like, just as equally. He just likes attention.
I mean, I think
which is dangerous. Yes, he's a dangerous person for sure. But, like, I'm not saying that I want him to win. I'm saying I also really don't want Biden to win because I'm thinking more in the long term. Yes, in the short term, okay, people all get appeased by
a return to normalcy.
The return to normalcy, right? And everyone can sigh a breath of relief and go back to bed, basically. Like, I've literally seen people express, like, in, like, these literal words, like, I just want Trump out so I don't have to think about politics anymore.
Oh, I've seen that everywhere.
Yeah, like, people just are saying it outright. And, like, people who aren't saying it outright, I think that's what's really, really motivating them, whether they'll admit it or not. And that's what I'm afraid of. And, like, and there's the other idea that the 8 years of Obama, of this, like, ramped up neoliberal policies, that's what led to a situation to get someone as insane as Donald Trump elected to be president. Like, Hillary Clinton, part of this huge political machine, she couldn't beat Donald Trump, the game show host. Why? Because people are so fucking sick of politics of that style. And Trump, falsely, of course, like I said, he doesn't believe in anything, but he still gave the appearance of, I'm an outsider, I'm going to drain the swamp, I'm going to give you health care. He just said everything people wanted to hear. And now he's like a cult leader. Now people will fucking die for the guy. So.
And how?
Yeah. Got a little, I totally forgot where I was in the article, but.
His history, record, and public statements notwithstanding.
That one, okay. I think to quote the great Dennis Miller, I think I went off on a rant there, babe. The great Dennis Miller, friend of the podcast.
He's all right.
No, he's not.
He's all right.
Fuck that guy.
Everyone's all right.
Oh, right. I forgot about your new philosophy of radical centrism.
You just have to head straight to the middle. Wherever the middle is at that time, that's where you go. And you just stand there and say, well, fuck, I'm in the middle of everything.
safe, cozy place.
The best place to be is the center of the storm, if I've learned anything.
I mean, that's technically true with a hurricane, but or a tornado and a hurricane, whatever. Continuing. His history, record, and public statements notwithstanding, Biden has offered up plenty of evidence to suggest he's not the crypto left-winger or...
Where the fuck did this term come from? Because I've been seeing it a lot lately, crypto left-winger.
It's just what the right is saying about him. Remember the RNC? They were like, radical socialist Biden and Kamala Harris.
God, I wish everything they said about Biden and Harris was true. If Biden and Harris were campaigning as the candidates the right has made them out to be, I would be like, holy shit, this election is the best.
I would be as on board as I was for Bernie, for sure. But they're just not. They're the opposite.
I think had Bernie won the primary, that actually the right might be painting him as being more conservative to try to like take away like some of the power that they know is inherent in had he had a candidate actually decided to be super like progressive and super populist.
But seeing that, and I mean that's an interesting idea. It's possible they could have gone that route, but I think they would.
I'm theory crafting here.
I think they would have just super doubled down on the like he is a straight up communist. He went on his honeymoon to the Soviet Union, and like, you know, they would be doing what they're saying about Biden, which is just outright lying, except they would be saying true things about Bernie. He is a socialist. He does want to enact socialist policies, but they would be painting it. They would have like pictures of Nazis marching and like Stalin like looking over crowds of people, you know.
He does know the colors red and yellow make you hungry.
What?
You know, like the USSR flag.
Oh, with the starvation.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I've just never heard that before.
McDonald's also red and yellow. That's
actually the first thing I thought of when you said that.
Just thinking of things that make me hungry.
Okay. Biden has offered up plenty of evidence to suggest he's not the crypto left-winger, or this one really gets me too. Modern day FDR, parts of America's liberal media brain trust have reflexively asserted. Yeah, I that was another thing I thought was like an Onion article, was like, Biden, the new FDR, ? Appointing neoliberal economist Larry Summers, raising unfathomable sums of money from financial interests, pivoting rightward with law and order campaign ads, pledging to fix the culture of corporate America by way of, quote, non-legislative, i.e. non-existent, action, and making the typical gestures centrist Democrats favor when engaged in their traditional election season pitch to conservative-leaning suburbanites. So this is what I was talking about before. They're ignoring anything like remotely left. Like it's like anything further left than like a Nancy Pelosi. They don't need, and so instead that's why they had fucking John Kasich and Michael Bloomberg at their convention, you know. That's why they're jumping up and down with excitement when Rick Snyder endorsed them. Behind the scenes, figures in close proximity to Biden have also quietly signaled that key parts of the former vice president's official agenda probably won't see the light of day even if he wins. So, not only will he not even like make false promises that sound good, like Medicare for all, Green New Deal, etc., but even his like middle of the road, lame like platform, he's not even going to deliver on that, is what they're saying. Like people within his campaign are saying that. Last month, anonymous Democratic aides hinted to the Hill that the much-touted public option won't be meaningfully pushed in the event of victory. So even the watered-down bullshit public option, they're not even going to try to really enact it. And though the comment was hastily walked back, Biden confidant Ted Kaufman's suggestion that a future Democratic administration would embrace an ethos of austerity.
Yay.
You don't say.
Yay.
Rather than one of public spending, as implied by the campaign's own official proposals. So, they're saying it outright.
Yeah, they have been.
Which was probably more of a proverbial canary in the coal mine than many are willing to admit.
Well, nothing like austerity measures when people are unemployed, people are sick, and the country is burning down. Why don't we just cut fundings to programs that could possibly, keep people from being sick?
Yeah, it's
help people who are unemployed.
And
fight fires.
It's trickle up economics. All the cream rises to the top,
where it belongs.
Yeah, all concentrated at the very tippy top.
There's nothing worse than when you get a nice latte at your favorite fancy coffee shop, and they say, "Would you like whipped cream in this?" And you say, "I sure would." And then you drive home or you walk home, depending on how you commute, and your whipped cream is all dissolved and mixed into your coffee. When you think, damn, I wanted to make sure my whipped cream was on top, where it belongs.
That was a very emotional analogy.
That's why
I'm tearing up.
That's why I just never get whipped cream. My coffee, I drink it black because I like my coffee like I like my life, bitter.
You said life, right? Not wife.
I said life.
Okay.
I don't have a wife.
That
would be irresponsible of me.
Moving on. If all this weren't enough, fresh reporting from the Washington Post's Annie Linsky offers remarkable insight into the political calculus undergirding the Biden campaign as it heads into the most decisive stretch of the general election that is still very much its to lose. Yeah, that's the thing is like...
I feel like they're trying to lose.
The polling numbers are like, it's outrageous. Like any other president, any other like normal presidential election, if the what's the word I'm looking for? The incumbent president was presiding over this disastrous response to the pandemic, record-breaking unemployment numbers, all the shit that you just listed a few minutes ago, it would be a slam dunk to get him out of office. And Biden is like up by like 3 points in a lot of these polls, like at best. Like, yeah, it seems like they're almost trying to lose. Following what is by now a familiar pattern, Team Biden is again signaling to its donors that the official Democratic platform is more a strategy for intra-party conciliation than a potential blueprint for governance. So in other words, the Democratic Party's platform, which doesn't even have what I would consider the bare minimum, Medicare for all, Green New Deal, they're saying even that is bullshit. Even that, we're not going to try. Though hardly a surprise, the explicit terms in which this is laid out to the Post are nothing short of remarkable. When Joe Biden released economic recommendations 2 months ago, they included a few ideas that worried some powerful bankers.
Oh my.
Allowing banking at the post office, which was a Bernie Sanders idea, for example, and having the Federal Reserve guarantee all Americans a bank account. Oh my, horror.
Well, some people aren't allowed to have bank accounts because they overdraft one time and then it snowballs out of control. Has that ever happened to you? It's happened to me before. I remember because banks kind of can order how your transactions occur.
Yeah, I've been purposely had overdrafts basically done to me in a weird systematic way.
As have I, and it's fucking terrible.
Yeah,
I know this isn't exactly what they're getting to, but
it's
but then your bank account's canceled and you can't get a bank account. And
see, I didn't realize that it's like so much harder to get a bank account after overdrafting, because I would assume you would be even like someone more likely to get a bank account, because like, oh, we can get so many overdraft fees from this idiot.
Do it again.
But continuing here with the pull quote. But in private calls, so this is the this is just illustrating the whole like typical thing everybody knows about politicians. They say one thing, to your face. Behind closed doors, they've got a whole other set of priorities. But in private calls with Wall Street leaders, the Biden campaign made it clear these proposals would not be central to Biden's agenda. They basically said, listen, this is just an exercise to keep the Warren people happy. And don't read too much into it, said one investment banker, referring to liberal supporters of Senator Elizabeth Warren. So this, it'll say right here in the article. The banker, who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe private talks, said that message was conveyed on multiple calls. The Biden campaign said the economic recommendations were produced jointly by supporters of Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders, and were never intended as official policy. Of course. This is what everybody from anything close to, like, say, our political bent has been saying from the beginning when Bernie dropped out. Back to the meat of the article. Is there anything to even say about that? It's just so, like, it's so expected yet so depressing at the same time.
Just that they say that they're trying to help the Warren crowd, but I don't know. Yeah, it's just fucking depressing. I don't know. That's what I have to say to it.
Excellent review. 5 stars.
Thank you. I've been working on that all week.
Reviewing your review.
I feel like I could beat Trump by doing that.
Just
if I was the nominee and my whole debate platform was to everything he said.
Just try to outgrown anything he can say. That would drive him insane.
I think if you ever wanted the American public's vote, just outgroaning somebody would probably get you more votes than you would.
You'd be expressing like 95% of the country's feelings, like at a like primal gut level. Dude, you should run, man.
I should. What's his policies? Well, I don't know. He just grows a lot. It's really fascinating.
You just like primal screaming and like flailing on the ground. This is his platform. What do you? What's your position on privatizing the water? Okay, let's continue. We're almost to the end of this one. I really like this guy's writing. I'm just gonna say that one more time.
I think it's good too.
Even by democratic standards, this level of cynicism is breathtaking. I agree. Putting it quite charitably, the Post's reporting characterizes Biden's posturing as, quote, flexible. Not duplicitous, outright lying. Here's that word. Our Luke goes on to say, though a better word might be duplicitous. This nevertheless offers a clue as to the kind of strategy activists will need to employ just to get a hypothetical Biden administration to honor what's in the candidate's own official platform. So forget about this pipe dream of pushing him to the left with Sanders' so-called influence with this task force. I mean, what he's saying here is like almost the best we can do is get him to honor his own shitty, lukewarm platform.
Yep. Which is not going to happen. I mean,
I mean, if that
He's
can't, if
not running on hope and change.
not at all. He's running on Trump sucks. This is all you've got. Bernie Sanders failed to become the Democratic nominee for president, but the core of his analysis, that political victories are the product of mass mobilization and struggle from below, would still have been correct in the event he'd succeeded. Whatever we think is in their hearts, political leaders rarely pass necessary reforms, let alone transformative ones, out of instinctive deference to what's written in platform documents or said rhetorically in the heat of primary contests that are watched almost exclusively by devoted party loyalists. That is a very good summary of how this shit works, that last longer sentence there. Contrary to what many liberals mistakenly think, we don't get progress through hashtag campaigns or by electing nice people who use the correct language and surround themselves with our preferred cast of celebrities. Rather, political victories have always been the product of confrontation, whether those in power willingly endorse them or not. Left activists and progressive Democrats could indeed make gains under a Biden presidency, but only by adopting an aggressive posture that issues bold demands and is merciless about compelling Democratic leaders to honor their stated goals. Yeah, that's just to honor their stated goals, let alone get them to adopt better goals. That's my aside. That starts with having no illusions about the kinds of things Joe Biden and those around him will probably be seeking to do if Donald Trump is defeated in November, and the legislative priorities that won't be on their agenda without an aggressive struggle from below. So we got to step up the confrontation. And the thing is everything he's talking about is like, he's sort of acknowledging that like even this sort of aggressive pushing at this point, like during the election, is like even more futile in a way. I don't know. Shit.
No, it's almost just like, what do we do? I mean, we just have to keep raising our voice, right?
Yeah.
Pushing.
I mean, I've said this before. My opinion is like the only possible way out of this abusive cycle is creating a viable third party and making a coalition of. I mean, it can't just be like self-identified leftists, I don't think, but I think if self-identified leftists got something kind of strong going, and I'm talking something like more viable than, say, the Green Party, because I think it would involve the Green Party being a part of it.
Right now, the Green Party is about the most viable.
It is, what I'm saying. It needs to be even more, because then maybe you could get some more like center-left types on board with that. And then, you get you increase the numbers, but
a lot of the center left, as you were bringing up earlier, they've just been abused to a point to where they're like, "Oh God, you got to cling to this because at least they'll do pandering. At least they pander to us that things could get better."
Well, it's voting. It's voting against, not for.
Yeah,
everyone is just voting against Trump.
Yeah,
like nobody is truly excited about Biden except for the most like delusional morons.
and the Harris Beehive people.
Yeah, Beehive people.
Hey Hive.
No, it's funnier to call them Beehive people. Just get their name wrong. Yeah, like I said, insane morons. But yeah, I guess there's one last thing I want to say before we move on to the recommendations is again, Luke Savage, his most recent article. I'm not going to read the article, but just I wanted to talk about this basic idea. So just the headline alone. Donald Trump has added trillions to the U.S. military budget. Joe Biden wants to spend even more. And it's very true. This is all like a lot of this stuff has come out all within within a short time. Like the I will not ban fracking promise. I will raise the already like criminally overfunded defense budget. It's just crazy. That's Biden like trying to outflank Trump on the right.
Yeah,
it's insane. Why is that the moment for this? Unless they're trying to lose. But the other thing about the Trump military budget that is quite I want to say funny, but it's not ha funny, but you know what I mean, is that, brave Nancy Pelosi, did you see when she tore up those pieces of paper behind Trump when he was giving his speech?
Of course I did.
Oh, powerful imagery, right?
Nasty woman.
Do you know what she did? Like either very soon, like recently before that or soon after?
Anio.
She put up zero fight against this budget that he wanted. The Democrats overwhelmingly passed it.
Well, which one was going to create better optics? Tearing up some papers behind Trump in a televised debate, or, quietly protesting military spending?
It wouldn't be quietly. She could have made a huge deal about it. She could have been like, this is all hypothetical. Of course, Nancy Pelosi would never do this. But someone in her position of power could have said, Trump wants to expand this military budget, which is already criminally overfunded. We have all these like unused, fighter jets and all this shit that just sit there like just gathering rust. Most of the money is just going to like private contractors, everything that's wrong with our insane military budget, right? She has the platform. She could have made it. It wouldn't have been quietly protesting, but instead, the funniest thing about this though is that was she could have groaned. No, she could have screamed like you would have, but like this was at the same time they were trying to impeach Trump. They were like, we're going to impeach this man. It was all this big like political theater. And then they were like, yes, Mr. Trump, here's all the money you want and more. They actually gave him more than he even asked for in the military budget. And it's just maddening.
It is.
Maybe that's a good place to call it quits.
Yeah, I don't think I can talk about this stuff anymore.
End on the word maddening. Yeah, I feel like talking about this stuff like
it's draining.
Like soon after you wake up is even weirder and more takes a weird toll mentally.
I have to go teach the youth and somehow not tell them, there's no point. Just play your fucking Nintendo Switches. Have fun while you can before the world's really burning down.
Yeah, or you could.
Or I could just tell them that. Hey, we're on Zoom. I can't tell if you click away from the window and start playing Minecraft. Do what you want.
Yes, on that note, shall we generally recommend some general recommendations?
Yeah, sure.
You want to go first or last?
I'll go first. I'm going to give a older recommendation that I'm sure some people have heard about, but I figured I'd just recommend something I like from Korea this time. Have you heard of the movie Parasite? Okay, no. Parasite's not my recommendation, but I do love the movie. So one of my favorite Korean movies, and I watched it recently, first time in a long time, is Castaway on the Moon. Have you ever seen it, Josh?
No, never heard of it even.
It's a really great movie from 2009. It won a lot of film awards, but it's about a Korean man who decides to attempt suicide by jumping off one of the bridges in the Han River. But he washes ashore on one of the islands on the Han River, and he doesn't know how to swim, and the Han River's massive, so he can't swim back to the bicycle paths.
Yeah.
And he's stuck there for basically a year, just living on this small island. And the reason he's tried to commit suicide is because he's massively in debt, and his whole life's just going to hell. And he just survives on a small island on the Han River for a year.
Damn, that sounds interesting.
While being observed by a hikikomori girl. Hikikomori is someone who always stays home. I think it was a Japanese term, but whatever. Who observes and photos him and videos him from her apartment.
Weird.
As he survives on this island. But it's really good, and it actually kind of says the undertones of the movies about how fucked up the work culture is in South Korea and how the debt culture is here. But it transcends South Korea as just the pressures of modern society can be so hard at times that often just suicide or something worse seems like an escape from just this caustic culture of you always have to be working. You always have to be figuring out how to wring that towel of profit just a bit harder for your corporate masters.
A lot of it is performative too, in the office culture where people, they've finished their work. There's nothing left to do, but they have to sit at their desks because it's just part of the culture that you don't leave until your boss leaves, And then then the flip side is any sort of free time a lot of these office workers do have, they either get just totally fucked up drunk at night and then do the whole thing over again, or as I've heard from a lot of Korean coworkers, whenever they have a day off, and it almost seems like they're exaggerating when they say this, but they're not. They say, I'm like, what are you going to do on Sunday? You got your Sunday off. I'm going to sleep.
Yeah,
I'm going to
sleep.
I'm going to sleep.
Tired.
I will sleep and eat. I will sleep, I'll wake up, I'll eat some shitty takeout food, and then I will go back to sleep. And it's really fucking depressing to hear.
So to give this film some credence beyond my general recommendation, it won the Hawaii International Film Festival. It was nominated for the Grand Bells for Best Screenplay and Best Planning. It won the Golden Cinematography Awards. It won the Blue Dragon Film Awards, the Baeksan Art Awards, the New York Asian Film Festival, and the Fantasia International Film Festival.
I'm definitely going to check that out. It sounds like interesting plot.
It's definitely in my top 5 favorite Korean movies, and one of my favorite Korean movies.
Nice.
Just in general.
I will definitely check that out. I was thinking too when you said, you jumped off the bridge in the Han River, for our listeners who don't, live in Korea, there is actually a suicide bridge in Seoul, the Mapo Bridge.
The Mapo Bridge, yeah.
And I've walked over it, and we said, the river is quite wide, so it's a good maybe 30-minute walk, possibly.
I mean, I can swim, but there's no way I'd be able to swim from one of those islands to the bicycle path. But I'm not a very strong swimmer. I'm sure a strong swimmer could, but
I don't know. I threatened to do it.
It's a long swim.
I threatened to do it once when I was drunk, and all my friends had to stop me from jumping in the river. Thank God. Shout out.
Jumping from the bridge or just into the river from
No, I just from the
Okay, good.
From the ground, I was like, I bet I can swim across this thing, and it's very stupid. But that bridge is quite something to walk across, because now they've built these fences that kind of curve upwards, so you can't really climb up them and over them. But they also have all of these pictures and
they start playing recordings at night now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it starts basically the recordings in Korean just saying don't commit suicide, think about your family, call your family.
Yeah, they have pictures of kids being don't leave your kid behind, and it's just it's an emotional walk across the bridge. Just to put it lightly, but
it's the only bridge where they've installed fences to keep people from jumping.
Well, because it was becoming a tradition. I mean, it was that's where everyone was jumping from. Man, we're not getting away from the depressing theme.
No, I guess not. I mean, Castaway on the Moon is it's got depressing undertones, but it's also a bit of a feel-good movie. It's billed as it's sort of like an indie rom-com, but it's very good, and I highly recommend
An indie rom-com that begins with a suicide attempt.
Well, yeah, that's what's indie about it.
All right, I got one here. I'm gonna go back into my pool of cool hip novels that nobody's read but me. It's called Understories. It's actually not a novel either. It's a short stories collection.
Great video game named Understory.
Oh, okay. Understories by a guy named Tim Horvath, who I've also communicated with, and he's a very, very smart, very nice guy.
Friend of the pod?
Oh, actual friend of the pod, unlike all the other ones I said before. But it's a very inventive set of short stories. It's like high literary fiction. I mean, I know literary fiction is a dumb genre, but it is kind of a genre by itself. Some of it's quite surreal. Again, this is this thing with me and my recommendations. One thing I like about it is that throughout the stories, there's this thematic thing of he has these stories called urban planning, and that's a case study number 1. And the stories are just about a city, and it's a very unusual city. One, for example, is I'm reading my review here. One I just described as a tale of a city that was in denial that it was a city. A little bit mind-bending. I think my favorite story of the whole thing is another urban planning one, but it's a longer one, and it's about a city that is just kind of run by cinephiles. I might be kind of not summarizing it very well, but anyway, I guess all I can really say is Tim Horvath's a very good writer, and this is, I think, his only published book, but it's really good. It's called Understories. So if you like kind of strange literary fiction.
And I just want to correct myself. The name of that game's Undertale.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'll do it for today.
That's been Heat Death of the Universe. Even though things seem bad up there,
they will get worse.
That's probably true.
What were you going to say?
No reason to commit suicide, though.
Yeah, hang in there, folks.
Yeah. If we can make it, you can make it.
Our endings are getting more and more stupid. or better, who knows?
On that note, good day.
And good luck and good night.
Godspeed.
Bye.